Champion John Higgins!
What a magnificent morning we've had. What an awesome afternoon could be in store. This is the scene at the Crucible. It is day 8. It's around the middle of the championship. It's around the middle of round 2. Judd Trump this morning winning 13-7 against Tom Ford. He's into the quarterfinals. We saw Stephen Maguire not so long ago establish a 10-6 lead over Sean Murphy. Sijo Wee, he's 9-7 down to Jack Jones going into their last session this afternoon. You can see every ball over on Discovery Plus here on Eurosport and of course Discovery Plus. Also, we're going to concentrate on the first session of John Higgins against Mark Allen. Scotland against Northern Ireland. As for this evening, 2 second round matches commence. Joe O'Connor, conqueror of Mark Selby in the first round, takes on Kyron Wilson. Jack Lazowski will face Stuart Bingham. That's the focus of our main coverage on Eurosport. As for Mark Allen, well, he's been one of the players of the season, and over the years he's had some Crucible memories.
What makes the Crucible a little bit different to everywhere else?
I think the history attached to it creates a lot of that. No, we've been there since 1977, I think. So that creates its own history. It's all right throwing money at a tournament and wanting to create history that way, but history's made by going there year on year and building a legacy. And you can sort of look back and remember certain matches from years gone by in that arena, and it's nice to be a small part of that history. And it'd be nice to tick that biggest box of them all by winning the World Championship at the Crucible. It's a special, special place.
What would you say your earliest World Championship memory as a viewer, as a fan, was?
Henry winning, sort of mid-90s, that was whenever I sort of started watching snooker. But even going back, Griffiths was a big favourite of mine, him winning in 79. Dennis winning that black ball against Davis in 85. And then Alex obviously winning 2 world titles, being from Northern Ireland, you all feel like you're part of that. But even certain matches just stand out. Obviously the Henry-Ronnie match, whenever they sort of weren't seeing eye to eye, there was a big sort of build-up to that one. That was great viewing, but it's nice just that I'm in the conversation and I'm part of these sort of memories for people.
Was there a moment as a young player that you were watching that you were particularly inspired by?
Just the atmosphere. I've seen a lot of good matches over the years. Probably the best atmosphere I've ever experienced outside of my own matches was when Judd played John in the final in 2011. It was ridiculous, the reception that they got. I think they both still talk about that match, and that's something that only the Crucible can create, in my opinion. And it'd be nice to get there to that final Sunday, Monday, and be part of that atmosphere. It'd be very special.
What do you remember from your Crucible debut?
I remember everyone saying how daunting the place was, and I played out of my skin at the start and was 4-0 up at the first interval. I was wondering what all the fuss was about. I wasn't thinking as clearly at 7-all in that match against Ken Doherty, but I managed to turn it around to 1-10-7. Played some good stuff. Played some good stuff in the second round against Matthew Stevens, but came out on the wrong end of it. I felt like that first debut, how well I settled, I felt like, oh, this is going to be easier year on year, but it actually went the other way for me. So some bad memories there too, some poor first round defeats and stuff like that. So it'd be nice to even the score.
How easy do you find just to treat a match at the Crucible like you're playing at practice or any other tournament?
You have to try. Now, it is different. It's the World Championships, and you get one crack every year. You have to try and keep it as simple as possible, and that's something I've got slightly better at as the years have went on. And like I say, just getting the most out of those bad sessions, I think that's something that I've really learned to do. But it'd be nice to do that and play really well as well, because I think if I do that, I'll win.
Mark Allen has been in 2 semi-finals here. This is his 18th appearance consecutively at the Crucible. His highest break, not quite the maximum. He's won more than half his matches, and he is considered, quite rightly, one of the main contenders this year. Of course, if he were to win the world title, he'd also end the season as world number 1. He'd be in that position for the first time. As for John Higgins, well, he holds so many Crucible records. 4 titles, that isn't a record, but it's a meritorious achievement nevertheless. With the prize money he's earned so far here, he's over £2.4 million from this championship alone. He has made a 147, and of course he's lifted that most coveted trophy in snooker on 4 occasions. Will it be 5? Well, he will need to improve, there's no doubt, on his seasonal form. That's why Mark Allen is considered the favourite for this match. But there's a big difference between a favourite and a certainty. Now, in the top half of the draw, already through, Dave Gilbert. I thought he was very impressive against Rob Milkins, winning 13-4, finished off with over 400 unanswered points in that match. It looks as though Gilbert will play Stephen Maguire in the quarterfinals, although Sean Murphy, well capable of a comeback. He's produced a couple of them from unlikely positions here in the past. Joe O'Connor will play Kyron Wilson for the right to take on the winner of the match we're going to be concentrating on this afternoon, Higgins or Mark Allen. Jack Jones and Si Jiahui. It was 8-3 at one point to Jack Jones. Si now back in it. He must have regrets though. He's lost 5 frames in that match on the final black, including one where Jones needed a snooker. So although Jones is in a good position, I think Si is more than capable of turning this around. As for Higgins, well, he's been here a part of the Crucible furniture for 30 years. He knows exactly what to expect, and he knows what a big match is coming his way.
2 very different matches to savour in this session. On one side of the arena, the 2 qualifiers, both back for a second tilt at the title. And on the other, 2 great champions with 48 years of Crucible experience and 42 ranking titles between them. You can sense the tension beginning to build around this famous old arena. So welcome back to day 8 at the Kazoo World Snooker Championship. Please welcome a player now just 4 frames away from a second successive Crucible quarter-final. It's been another brilliant run on the biggest stage of all. He always saves his best for last. Always calm, always composed. The silent assassin, Jack Jones. And his opponent, also trying to close in on back-to-back quarter-finals after that epic run to the semis last year. He's beaten Mark Williams in a tense decider already this year, and he dug deep last night to reduce the deficit. He'll be fired up for this afternoon. Here comes China's Si Jiahui. And now to one of the all-time greats, emerging for his 26th appearance in the second round, 28 years after his first. This is his 100th World Championship match. 8 times a finalist, 4 times a champion, the 3rd most decorated player in history, the Wizard of Wishaw, John Higgins. What an atmosphere. And finally, to one of this season's outstanding performers, back for a 13th second round appearance after victory over Robbie Williams, a UK champion, a Masters champion, a winner of 11 ranking titles in all, the pride of Northern Ireland. Here comes Mark the Pistol Allen.
Of course, we will keep you informed as to who goes through to play Judd Trump in the quarter-finals. Will it be Jack Jones or Si Wei? That's over on Discovery Plus. Here, though, it is Allen against Higgins. They are well acquainted.
The first frame, Mark Allen to break.
And I think they're also very well matched. With me in the commentary box for this one is one of snooker's foremost minds, Neal Foulds, former world number 3. Your thoughts?
Well, it's going to be a very tough match. It's proper match play, isn't it, these two? You know, you would be expected if either were able to convincingly win the match, you don't expect it to be a tight one. And a lot might be determined by what happens in these first 8 frames. But I guess one thing you can say, Mark Allen's almost a good counter-puncher. He likes to sit back and often wait now for mistakes. Whether John makes that many might be the factor, but we look forward to it. Not a great opening from John. He missed that red by far enough so that the cue ball didn't go anywhere near back down the table as he might have hoped. And when the red crashes into the bunch, you know, your heart's in your mouth a little bit. It's the first shot of a best of 25, but it wasn't a good one from John.
Neal was right. Higgins butchered that opening red, and yet, one shot later, he's right in amongst them.
Well, I wasn't on commentary for either of the sessions of the Mark Allen victory over Robbie Williams. I think he finished well, but from what I understand, I think you might have been on commentary, Phil, but you know, there were times when he wasn't quite as sort of cutting edge as he might be. But this start is extraordinary, really. At 3 of the worst shots you could see these two play. This was the worst of all of them. The red nearly went on the floor.
Yeah, you're right about Mark Allen in the first round. I didn't do the first session. He went 7-2 up on Williams. In the second session, he played very cautiously and conservatively. Williams was the aggressor in that concluding session, but when the chips were down and it was getting a wee bit close for comfort, Allen produced a century. And we've seen so often over the years that how players perform in the first round has no bearing on what they do later, good or bad.
There's nowhere to hide here, where the balls are. I mean, the reds are, well, they're all completely spaced out. And you wouldn't see many of the frames for these two, with the reds as they are, there's not 2 reds close together out of the 15. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before.
At certain tournaments these days, the players are allowed to go out onto the table and have a 10-minute knock around to get used to the surroundings, the conditions. And this is how they would normally place the balls on the table, just to get the cue arm lubricated.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly that. It is like a practice routine. And now we'll see if all the practice works, because it's an amazing chance, actually, to win the first frame. You wouldn't be saying that very often when someone's potted a red and a brown. But he'd be very disappointed to see John come back to the table. Well, Mark Allen, with a chance of winning the frame.
Six.
Whenever you see a situation like this, I always think of a phrase often issued in the commentary box by John Pulman, former world champion. He's got to mind his work. And really, there's no heavy lifting here. It's all quite simple.
Nine.
Well, maybe Mark Allen's got so many possibles here, he doesn't know quite where to start on it, because it's just the opening of all openings, really. Black is also free. Often when the reds are strewn at all different directions, that, you know, high-value colours are not in play, but not the case here.
10.
Yeah, what do they say? The agony of choice. Having to really stretch here.
$13.
And now forced to take cue ball in and out of bulk.
Yes, he played it with right-hand side, check side, and that was to avoid the cue ball on its natural path going into the green ball off the second cushion.
18.
Well, he's engineered a way to have a difficult shot here. I don't quite know how he's managed it, but he did look at everything for so long. If he was looking for a problem, he's found one. Because really, it was such a wonderful table. Might be able to pop this to the middle, but it's about 20 times more difficult than it should have been at this stage. It's good recovery shot, actually. 19. And now hopefully he can send that cue ball into an area where he's got a choice of a number of reds.
23.
Calling out the scores, the referee there, Paul Collier, who will be in charge of the final.
$24.
You feel that if you can get on a red to the left corner, one of the reds down in the area where the black is, then he'll be playing the black to the right corner soon after. So that would be the real key to the break. Well, he does that a lot at the moment. He gets up on... He would give your opponent a false hope that he's about to miss. I've got no idea why he was waving his arms there. It wasn't a kick because he nearly missed it thin.
I heard the word kick said, and I'm with you. They don't kick thin, do they?
I've never seen one do it before.
It's been a workmanlike break, this.
Played quite a good shot, but he's just a ball's width short of being perfectly placed on the blue. But he did well to avoid other reds. Now his next shot is going to be the one. Running this through and playing that red on the left side as straight as possible, holding for the black, then his problem should be over.
It's one of the most ponderous 30 breaks you're ever going to see. There you have it, 9 minutes.
$35.
Well, his average shot time in this break, unbelievably 38 seconds. But after that kiss,
36.
it's all worthwhile, I suppose.
$42. $43. $50. $51.
Higgins made 3 mistakes in succession. The third has been well and truly punished. It's taken a while, but it has been punished, and now the first frame surely will fall
58.
to Allen.
$59. 66.
Can he begin with a century? It would be his 47th this season. And he's 55th in total at the Crucible.
67. $70. $71.
And with the frame one, the pace of Allen's play upped considerably.
$78. $79.
It's an interesting point you make there, you know, because you can actually get your average
85.
shot times down at the end of frames when they're won by getting the skates on. It doesn't necessarily paint a
86.
true reflection of them, but yeah, the bottom line is we're in the first frame here. He had the chance and the Reds were everywhere and he's still at the table, so he's doing it right. He did have one or
92.
two good kisses along the way, but he's not missed anything, and that's the key. And
94.
at this game, at this venue, in this championship, keeping your opponent in their chair is not something
97.
Yeah, the key shot for me was the blind cutback on the red when he dropped out of position quite early.
106.
And whoever you're playing at the Crucible, whenever you're playing here, to start with a century, is just what the doctor ordered.
112.
It's a meeting of two giants, and it's a giant number to get things underway in favour of Mark Allen. Mark Allen, he has played John Higgins an awful lot recently, but this, of course, is the most important occasion. You can play anyone at the Crucible with a place in the quarterfinals at stake.
The second frame. John Higgins to break.
This is their 6th meeting on the Pro Tour this season and their 5th this calendar year.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed the fact that, like you say, this year, what are we, mid-April, and they've, as you say, already played each other 4 times. It seems an awful lot, doesn't it? And you do get that with players repeating matches, and of course, it was probably the most difficult match to call. And let's be honest, with the number of seeds that have gone out, then whoever wins this match could easily be champion. You know, it's as simple as that. Great start for Mark Allen again. You feel the top half of the draw has opened up, and that's not any disrespect to the players that are still in there. David Gilbert, the winner of the Maguire-Murphy match, and then, of course, with Mark Selby beaten by Joe O'Connor in there as well, who plays Kyron Wilson, a little bit the forgotten man, but all of them will be looking over their shoulder who wins this match, I think, in that section.
3.
Yes, and rightly so. Their meetings this season, Allen beat Higgins 6-2 in the semi-final of the Champion of Champions, went on to lift the trophy. Also, he had a 6-5 win over Higgins in the first round at the Masters. That was the 5th time he'd beaten Higgins at the Masters. And more recently, he won 10-7 when they played in the first round of the Tour Championship. Higgins made a really good start to that match, led 4-1. It's the opposite way round here, it seems, with Allen. In the balls, looking for another sizable contribution. Just to redress the balance, Higgins, he beat Allen 5-2 at both the German Masters and Welsh Open.
Problem he's got here, of course, is that he really wanted to move the red away from the black spot, the one that's just to the right there, which he can't do because the black is tied up by that red. Played a good shot there to play to the red for the right middle.
17.
It's a very good start for Mark Allen. I mean, Higgins did get in.
18.
Well, he didn't actually get in because he missed the first red, but he did have a pretty comfortable red in frame one, which he had enough time to think about.
Overdid this one with a cue ball, and remember in the first frame, he almost missed a blue of similar ilk to this.
$23.
Looks to be showing his workings out here, whether he's playing off the bunch and hoping to cannon the red and the black. Seems pretty far-fetched if that's what he's trying, that he might pull that shot off and beyond the black.
The running side widened the angle, well, more than one angle there, and it's taken the cue ball at least into mid-table.
Yes, and the red that followed the cue ball around actually might have freed the pink. Now, he can't pot it here, clearly, but that's in play. Now, that goes through that small gap, but wide enough for a ball to fit through. This is the big one. And he knew it.
Mark Allen, 24.
We may get another chance to see that. I would say, and it's easy sitting here, but sometimes we get the absolute bird's eye view of things. To me, that pink will go. That Mark looked at, and now John is looking at. John didn't necessarily think it was worth the risk.
I'm with you, Neil. I think the view we had a while ago suggested the pink will pass, but it is a narrow cap.
Yeah, but it either goes or it doesn't, and you know, if it goes, you're only going to hit the red if you miss the potting angle. But I get your point. You know, there's not a load of room there. One thing we do know is that the red that's next to the pink, when moved, is a handy ball to be out of the way, and he's on it. So that was a good shot from John.
I don't know whether it's a burden, but John Higgins has to win this match to retain hope of remaining in the top 16. After all these years, he's been a member of the elite, never dropped out, 29 years, but now that place is under threat. He came here thinking, maybe if I won my first match, I'll be okay.
11.
And he could have been, but with Rob Milkins getting through, that was a negative result in that regard. And also, Ryan Day beating Barry Hawkins. So he has to win this match to retain top 16 status. He might well regain it somewhere down the line, but he wants to stay in amongst the elite unbroken. It's a proud record.
Well, it would feel if John went out of the 16,
90.
a bit like it would if a high-ranking Premier League side had to play in the Championship, wouldn't it? I wouldn't even like to mention the kind of side it would be, but it would be a very big club.
Also a momentous milestone for John Higgins today. I didn't know this, but David Hendon told me. It's his 100th match in the World Championship.
25.
He's 92nd here at the Crucible.
$26.
Only Ronnie O'Sullivan has played more matches at this venue. His rankings troubles, if you can call them that, rather strange really, Neil, because he's trying to reach his 7th ranking event quarter-final of the season. 32. It's not been a bad campaign at all.
Just for John, that's never been anything but a failure, is it? Those sort of rounds of an event. He's been a born winner. But I'm going to say to you, Phil, that his first ever opponent in the World Championships,
33.
qualifiers 1993, was against somebody who I don't know, called Malcolm Billaney. That's who he played. Now, I don't know who Malcolm Billaney is. Might even be watching. Anyone that does know him, or his whereabouts, let us know, because he was part of something quite big, wasn't he?
He was.
39.
Early World Championship matches, I remember, for John Higgins. I remember he lost a match against a lad from Preston called Lee Robinson, who played the snooker of his life to beat him. Always wide.
Yeah, never ever in.
John Higgins,
Significantly.
39.
That 39 is not going to be anywhere near enough. He's given an immediate chance back.
1.
Well, clearly the red that's been to the right of the black all the way through this frame, which kind of
7.
hampered Mark Allen when he had that first break, is still where it always was. So that's going to be the key to the frame, I suspect, that ball.
8.
Trying to get the blue on its spot. Typical Mark Allen, very neat player positionally. Although that is not a very good shot. He's really there. I mean, listen, he is one of these guys who's got
13.
tremendous cue ball control. But there was surely an argument there if he had the angle to screw above the red and leave himself room, and precision play didn't work for him there.
Mark Allen, 13.
That's his mindset now, though. When he does lose position, he doesn't lose composure or indeed focus. He just plays a good safety, and that's why he's been so successful in the last couple of seasons. I've seen him play a lot more spectacular snooker throughout the course of his career than he has done these last 2 seasons, but it's all about the silverware, and he's won 6 tournaments.
Foul and a miss. Mark Allen, 4. Back here.
Yes, you're right, Phil. He put John in enough trouble there.
Okay.
Obviously, it's second prize from the positional play that went wrong. He wants to be at the table still, but he's got John in trouble. I get the feeling he'll improve this time around and hit it, but it's not an easy one. Certainly not to keep it safe, and he hasn't done so.
He just stood there hoping for the cue ball to stop, and he just went on slightly too far for his liking. He has got a marginal angle on the blue.
Six.
Yeah, he nearly had enough angle just to end up being snookered there. Nothing worse than finishing the wrong angle on the blue. If you could, always finish where you want to, it would make the game so much easier. It's a very big shot in the game.
Mark Allen, 6.
Well, no snooker this time for John Higgins. I mean, the pot is available, although not for 1 second would you say it would be easy up into that green pocket. Didn't play it. Has he got the snooker? I think that some of the red is sticking out.
Okay, thanks.
I think in the ideal world, he'd like to chip this red thin contact onto the black and send the cue ball to bulk.
Over the decades, when it comes down to a fight like this, John Higgins has been so successful. But he's playing someone here who's also prepared to go into the trenches. More prepared than ever before. Of course, Alan's World Championship campaign last year came to an end at the hands of another tactical maestro with unlimited patience, Mark Selby, who defeated him 17-15 in that epic semi-final. I think if these two get stuck in, Neal, and it's evenly contested, this could be quite a lengthy match.
I think it's sure to be. And that match last year, as you say, Selby was near the top of his game then. He's not playing so well right now. But it's always going to be hard for Mark Allen to outlast Selby in a match that is mostly tactical.
Between the pink. Yeah, I saw that.
By the way, we're not being negligent when it comes to giving you the score on the other table. They're still involved in their first frame of the day. "41 minutes and counting it's taken. The middle Saturday at the Crucible, and the intensity which has been there right from the beginning is now at a perceptibly higher level. Didn't want to nudge that brown. The red is available.
I wonder if he'd think about playing cushion first here. The only reason is that he's absolutely straight. You know, and he'd either possibly pop this and the cue ball would follow it, or would end up in the jaws. Some players are better at the cushion first option than others. It's one of those that you could easily miss the red playing it cushion first, but it would at least take the cue ball out of there, away from that corner of the table. I think he's playing it that way. Interesting shot selection. I don't think he'd have missed it had he played it directly. But the cue ball was the problem, obviously. That's why he did play it that way.
Alan couldn't resist just a few steps to his left to see if he's obtained the snooker. The answer is, of course, yes. The first lengthy tactical duel, this, of what's bound to be plenty over the course of this afternoon and as the match progresses.
Yeah, I wonder if he's got any inclination to have a dart at this. It's very difficult, you know, and it's not really a big pocket, but you could pot it off the brown. Maybe to even intentionally play it off the brown. Don't think he's going to do it, though. Well, there you are, you see. It's probably what he deserved there. He's tried to play a complex safety shot, which was more difficult than anything else.
He's Mark Allen, but he's also Mark II. He's a very different player over the last couple of seasons to what he was before.
1.
Plays a much more percentage game.
Well, he's not a Mark Williams, because one thing about the Welshman, he keeps the game simple at all times and always has done, doesn't overthink anything. He's somebody who will just almost play the first shot he sees, Mr. Williams. I know he's out this year.
5.
But he's won 3 world titles. And it kind of helps him, I think, a little bit over a long tournament like this. Anyway, Higgins has got to make these now. Now the chance has come.
7.
It's the front in the frame.
10.
So it's brown to blue needed. And pink, of course, as well. But this positional shot is always the crux.
14.
And slightly overscrewed.
Yeah, that's why it's an important shot, isn't it? Because if you get right on the blue, then it's almost unmissable blue to pink. But not quite the case here. You know you've got to pot these.
19.
And you know that you probably shouldn't have a shot at this range. So it becomes a missable frame ball now. You can sense that he feels that too.
well done to John Higgins. Mark Allen dominated the first frame. Higgins shades the second.
The third frame, Mark Allen to break.
If you remember, his first attempt at a pot in this match, he missed a red from distance to that pocket by a mile. That one was a peach.
Yeah, I think he could roll that in this time. He kind of half-stunned the other one, didn't he, to get it round wider positionally. But he's given him an in.
Four. Five.
Yes, it's boosted John, hasn't it, winning frame two. It ended up a really good chance that he was given
12.
because of the Allen double kiss.
Well, he conquered Mark Allen in the second frame, and the reason I say that is because in terms of frames won at the Crucible, that was for John Higgins. 1066, 1,066 frames won here. Only Stephen Hendry and Ronnie O'Sullivan have won more. Little bit nerdy, that, Neal. I'm guilty.
20.
Please take 7,300 other offences into consideration.
$21.
I find it amazing that John Higgins has come here with a different cue. You know, I was fascinated by that discussion in the studio the other night, that he's now got a different cue to the
26.
one he used literally at the last tournament. I think it probably helps John that he is someone that can hit plain ball. He's not a big user of side and extravagant spin on the ball, so I suppose you can get used to a new cue more readily if that's the case. But it would fill a lot of players with horror to come into the Crucible with a different cue to the one you've been using as recently as a couple of weeks before. But that's John.
When he turned professional, it would have filled him with horror. But I think the way the players look at new cues these days is totally different to when he started out his professional career.
Maybe, but he's always been a little bit like that. I know, I'll give you an example of someone that's not like it. Ken Doherty, he's using the same cue
34.
he had when he was like a junior player. So you don't have to change. And John wasn't playing badly with the other one, but that's the decision he's made, and you know, he looks comfortable out there anyway.
Yes, he's always been a major
35.
tinkerer with his cue, lengthening it, shortening it. Tinkering with his technique as well. And in that regard, Mark Allen is quite similar.
.42.
He's on the bottom red, I think. I'm not sure he played on that one because he's now checking to see if it goes, whereas had he played on it, clearly he knew, would have known already that it went.
.43. .50. .51. .57.
Yeah, just about, but
58.
strangely, playing it off that left side of the pocket might be how he meant it, to get the angle perfectly on the black, the low angle. Now, does he go into the 5 reds? He doesn't necessarily have to, because the loose red and a colour would be enough. That's match play for you. He didn't feel the need to go into the reds. Yes, he could have enhanced his chances of making a century.
65.
But that's really not in his mind at this point.
.66.
Five reds left, so 67 on the table for Alan, should he get the chance to come back. That was frame ball. In without touching the sides.
73. John Higgins, 73.
After losing the first frame and missing a couple of balls he should have potted, certainly one that was from short range, Higgins has done well here to get onto the verge of 2-1.
Well, that will certainly ensure that the frame goes his way now.
.6.
Tons of mutual respect
7.
between these two. They've had some cracking battles over the years.
$13. 14. 20. Yes. 21.
An immense roar emanating from the other side of the auditorium. That's because the first frame of the day is in the books, and what a frame it was.
28.
Si Jaoui, after losing so many
29.
tight frames in the first two sessions, wins frame 17 on the black after needing a snooker with 5 colours remaining.
John Higgins, 29 on the frame.
No snookers got in this frame. It was all very clinical in favour of John Higgins.
Thank you. The fourth frame. John Higgins to break.
Our referee Paul Collier announcing the start of the fourth frame, which is the last before the mid-session interval. Mark Allen, if you're just joining us, was off to a picture-perfect start. Made a break of 119 in the first frame. But John Higgins, he won the second with a last red to pink clearance, and he's just won the third frame to love.
Now, has that red gone far enough to be cuttable? Cue ball has finished this side of the brown. That's the first thing to say. It looks quite thin. John saying that it doesn't cut. It would have been maybe the thinnest of contacts possible.
I've seen it, it's okay.
Well, that's not the best safety shot, and it must tempt John Higgins to take on a red to left corner. Black completely free. So, didn't really play it with a lot of conviction, quite honestly. I mean, you can think that the John Higgins over these years completely devoured that long red and played on the black. Would have been away, but that time just a tiny bit tentative, I felt.
One.
When he made his century in the first frame, the reds were all over the place. Ideally positioned. Here, there's a lot of work to be done. Nevertheless, at this level, you have to regard this as quite a promising chance.
Four.
We can see him looking at that 3-ball plant. It must admit, it does look on. I mean, it does depend the distance between the middle red and the right-hand red as to whether it's on. But he's looking at something he's not going to be playing yet anyway. Well, saying that, he looks like he might play it now. The red to left corner is not difficult. Thought he might be looking at to save it for a bit further down the line. It was the 3-ball plant. It did look very manageable, and it proved to be. It's a very poor shot. Very poor shot. And I say that because Mark Allen's cue ball is normally under complete control,
10.
but I mean, to finish that far out of position for the next red, by his standards, that's one of the worst positional shots you could see him play.
Yes, he hit the blue into the overcut portion of the pocket. That's why the cue ball travelled on so far. I agree with Neal. His positional play is still among the very best in the world, but I don't think it's quite as good as when he used to play very freely. Playing at a slower pace, I think it's inevitable that you're going to erode your own rhythm to a certain extent. But you can't argue with what he's done over the last couple of seasons. Last season won the Northern Ireland Open, UK Championship and World Grand Prix. This season, Shootout, Champion of Champions and Players' Championship.
Well, that
Mark
took 4
Allen,
minutes,
10.
that break of 10, and when he came to the table, he had a chance, and it soon amounted to nothing.
Average shot time 29 seconds into the fourth frame, and when you consider that he made the 119 in the first frame, that is quite a big number. But par for the course these days. It's an oft-mentioned phrase because of its simplicity and accuracy. Clive Everton, the doyen of commentators, has described the World Championship at the Crucible as a sporting marathon of the mind. It most certainly is. It is mentally exhausting, and the way Alan plays, could he sustain this kind of style all the way to trophy night? Others have done it. But because we've been so used to him playing so brilliantly and so quickly over the years, it just seems still, to me, even 2.5 years down the line since he adopted this particular kind of style, it just seems as though it's still a little alien to him. It's working, though.
Yes, I mean, to your point, Peter Ebdon has done it, and it took a special kind of player with that sort of mental fortitude, I think, in Ebdon to achieve that World Championship victory, and he won it by the odd frame as well in the final, so he went all the way, didn't he, against Stephen Hendry, because he was in the final as well. But players like that are not necessarily around all the time. I will say one thing, because Peter Ebdon was not as slow as he ended up early in his career when he first came here and beat Davis. You know, he wasn't, I'm not saying he was a quick player like Alan was, but he ended up a lot slower towards the end of his career than he did early on in it. I think the problem, and this is one that's more pragmatic on the overall Mark Allen chances, is I don't know whether he helps himself sometimes. Clearly, he looks at his ranking, and you know, he could well be world #1 at the end of this championship, depending on exactly who wins it. But I'm not sure it always helps his chances. And I think against John Higgins, I don't think just being very deliberate and very thoughtful is going to be enough. It might be enough to defeat certain players in the mind and on the table.
I think it's a fascinating debate, and one thing I will say, you've just mentioned Peter Ebdon. Mark Allen and Ebdon are linked by one thing. They've both got fantastic temperaments. Mark Allen has got immense bottle, and of course that's an invaluable asset here.
Well. I thought it didn't look to go, I must say, easy for me to say that was sitting here in a commentary box. But he tried to sort of maybe bend it around that middle red and hit the bottom one, but I'm not sure at that distance you can do that shot. And of course, he hits the red on the way through. The shot looks a lot worse when you hit an intervening ball. Which is something, of course, we've all done. Oh dear, well, John's missed that one by a long way. Must have been thinking about holding the cue ball. That didn't threaten the pocket.
Strange opening exchanges for me here. Yes, John Higgins in front. He doesn't look convincing, though. He doesn't look as though he's full of confidence.
Well, he's been after that red for a while. I'm not sure, has he got any way of getting to the blue to even hit it? Never mind anything else. No, he's got to play the black, so...
Black.
It didn't really amount to anything, that.
Mark Allen 1.
Cue ball in baulk, the conventional place to put it for safety, but with a red at that end of the table, Higgins knows he's going to be in a spot of bother on his next visit, or at least he should be. Over on table 2, Jack Jones was 2 frames in front overnight, and that's where he is again. He's just taken frame 18 from Sijawi on the brown. So Jack Jones 10-8 to the good.
I think the story of that match over there is players winning frames at one point seemingly unlikely to win. And that was not quite as dramatic as the previous one, which one of the snooker lasted an hour. But Joey was in a strong position, didn't win it.
That's the classic good white. Not good for Higgins, though. All awkward.
You know, John has no option there but to play a safety shot.
Up off the shot, but in regardless. So often when you catch the bump of a middle pocket, it can spell the end of a break. That was a little unlucky.
Yeah, I mean, he hit both bumps, didn't he? That was the thing. He hit the top jaw and the bottom jaw. And I suppose he would have been lucky to be on one as well. It was one of those. He lost control of the cue ball a bit. But there was only so much you can do there.
Mark Allen 6.
Well, I think the red to left middle is on.
Already 17 ahead when he came to the table. Should pad the lead here. Obviously the configuration of the ball's not ideal, hence the head shaking. But a Mark Allen in full flow, he'd be able to sort it out.
Six. 7.
Well, he's got the chance here, and he's been waiting quite patiently for it. John missed he missed a very bad red to right middle earlier in this frame when Alan had made an error and left him it, and it didn't threaten the pocket. So this chance has come.
So, 13. $15. $16.
From pocket cam to thinking this frame could well be in Alan's pocket. At the very least, he should build a substantial advantage.
$21. $22.
That's nicely played. That is perfect. Well, certainly 3 reds in the middle of the table will take him close. Every time we see John,
27.
his expression is always as if he's quite deep in thought. He's obviously deep in concentration, but with
28.
John, it always looks like he's thinking about something in particular.
One thing he knows, he suspected it before the match began. I think he's convinced
33.
of it now. What's happened in the first 4 frames reinforced his opinion that this is going to be
34.
a very tough match, win or lose. It will take a massive investment in effort to get over the line for either player. Quite a low scoring frame.
39.
Mark Allen has this red with the rest, which is frame ball.
$40.
Pretty well-crafted break of 40, which should become 47. And that should mean parity at the interval.
47. Mark Allen, 47 and the frame.
Indeed, John Higgins leaves his chair and leaves the arena. The first 4 frames of this best of 25er have been shared. Mark Allen 2, John Higgins 2. The start, you would think, of a marathon. Right now we're just about to see the re-entry of John Higgins and Mark Allen. 2-2 at the moment. 4 more frames to be played this afternoon.
Frame 5. Mark Allen to break.
Before a ball was spotted, Neal, I thought about this session. Didn't know who was going to perform well, didn't know who was going to struggle. What I did think was that it was either going to be 4 each or 5-3 either way at the end of it, and I've not changed my mind. I think that's the vibe we're getting right now.
Yeah, possibly. You never quite know how things are going to develop. We've been wrong before, but we'll just have to see what happens from here on in. I expect it to be a match that goes deep anyway.
Pink, yeah. Okay, mate.
Just a reminder, as we mentioned the draw there a moment or so ago, the winner of this match will take on Joe O'Connor or Kyron Wilson in the quarterfinals. I think it's being kind to say that from distance, John Higgins isn't on it. He missed that one by the proverbial country mile.
Well, he hit the wrong side of that, didn't he? He has got a different cue, I'll say. And, whatever you think about the using of a different cue, it's something John has done many times before.
One.
It's no good, not a good shot. He's on the red, yes, but not like that. Certainly the one thing that I said earlier on that he's always had has not really been there today. He hasn't played poorly. You know, he's made a century and he's 2-2 against John Higgins, but his cue ball control is not anywhere near to the level he used to. But he's potting balls, and that's a very good recovery.
I think his mindset is T card. He believes he can win this way. He does win this way. Of course, to compete at the highest level of any sport, you need the necessary skills. He's got them. But you also need self-belief
10.
to be able to showcase those skills. Bottle in this sport is worth fortunes, and he's got it.
Well, that was a key shot to land on that red, was it, in the way that he did? And that's also a lot better. I think that's perfect. You can reach across, get to that red, it's a straightish angle.
19. $26. $27.
Looking to be the third world champion from Northern Ireland. Alex Higgins famously won the title in '72 at Selly Park, British Legion in Birmingham. Then again in '82, right here. Dennis Taylor winning on the black against Steve Davis in that unforgettable final in '85.
32.
I think this split has been a delight.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine where he's finished. Could screw onto the other red here and hold for the black as well. This is the key. Wow. That's not like him. That is not
Mark
like
Allen,
him.
32.
Usually a shot he's very good at. I think he probably had to, in concentrating on the cannon, he might have been sort of losing sight of the contact on the red to pot it. He needed. It's one of those things that happens. But it came out of the blue. It's a very good cue ball, isn't it? I mean, he's absolutely under that cushion rail. I do say one thing about Alan, you know, not everyone is a fan of his new approach to the game, which is, you know, winning him tournaments and keeping him right at the very top of the rankings. But one thing that has certainly improved, he's an absolutely superb safety player these days. This season it's been evident that he's had players in all kinds of trouble. And that's one way of winning. It's a very important part of the game, of course.
Now that, from the sound, wasn't the best contact. That's why the cue ball hasn't gone where he wanted it to. It was quite a clunking contact. But again, Mark Allen missing a red.
Yes, he's played it that sort of in and out of bulk way because rolling that in, there's always a tendency the cue will drift into bulk anyway. So I understand why he played it that way. Sort of three cushions bringing the cue ball out to the centre of the table, but the pot not going in. That's the problem. John's missed a couple of these, hasn't he? There's another one. I've got to be honest, I don't fancy him for a long ball at all. And he's not even getting close to them. And that does not bode well.
One.
Well, this now on a plate for Allen. I'll tell you what, he's come a long way, Mark Allen, since his very first meeting with John Higgins.
8.
It was in the 2005 Northern Ireland Trophy. It was Mark Allen's first event as a professional. It was
9.
early season. Higgins was rusty. Missing balls like that, I recall. Allen, despite his lack of experience, won 4-1. And the rookie back then also beat Steve Davis in that tournament, so you knew
16.
he could handle the big time. I mentioned it was his first professional match, but he'd already
17.
won titles by then. Amateur-wise, very successful. World Amateur Champion in 2004. European Amateur Champion the same year.
$24. $25. $30.
Played with
31.
right-hand side to finish top side, and he's virtually got a frame under his belt, and he might just sense that, yes, there are 3 frames to go, and we know it's a long match. We kind of have it earmarked as a close match. But if John has lost his confidence on his long game, Mark might think he can really
36.
make hay in this session, what's left of it.
Again, the
37.
cue coming up in the air, giving the impression he'd missed it, and in went the red anyway. Four of the 5 frames played thus far have been one-sided. In fact,
42.
they've been won without the losing player potting a ball.
$43. $50. $51.
Just enough on the table for a century.
$58. $59.
He needs either a pink or black with this red to make that happen. And he played that well with right-hand side to take him closer
66.
to that red. He'd be running through, I suspect, onto the black, and he could play on the pink if he wanted to screw it in, but I don't think that's really his style. It's definitely on now.
67. $74. 76. 79.
If he does it, it would be the 5th time he's made 2 or more centuries in a match against Higgins. Forget that, but Mark Allen is back in front. When it comes to Crucible stats, Crucible records, he's mentioned on multiple occasions. Right now, though, he can't draw on those positive memories because it's all about how you're playing in the present. And John Higgins, so far this afternoon, has missed quite a lot, especially, as Neal pointed out in the previous frame, from distance. One of the records that John Higgins holds proudly is that he's completed 7 session whitewashes here at the Crucible over the years. Steve Davis next best with 6. Right now, he'd just like to win the last 3 frames this afternoon. As the song said, 2 out of 3 wouldn't be bad either.
Yes, I think in at close range with the new cue, which he not really made a big deal of it, but he did sort of let it slip out after his win against Jamie Jones, that he's got a different cue to the one he used only in Manchester the week before last. I mean, this is quite recent stuff. But sometimes with a new cue, you're in amongst them, it's absolutely fine, but occasionally not so at long range, but we'll keep an eye on all that. This is a half-decent chance.
It's been said over the years many times by yours truly that there's a comparative weakness in Higgins' game, which is the rest. But I think over the last few years, he's actually improved in this regard.
Cheers.
You notice I used my words advisedly and said a comparative weakness because his overall game has always been so powerful.
$11. 12. 19.
On the theme
20.
of John Higgins records, here's another one he jointly holds with Ronnie O'Sullivan, and that's pertinent to what he's doing right now, which is building a break. He's made the highest break at the Crucible and cashed 5 times.
27.
147, 146, 2 143s and a 142.
I mean, right now he'd settle for about 75, wouldn't he, or whatever it would be, 80. To get an important frame, this, you know, under his belt. But as you say, you know, he's a prolific break builder.
$28.
Just a bit straight on the black, I think. He tried to force the red and leave an angle. I mean, he could play on the bottom red, but he didn't really want to play on the red down the cushion when there's other options. But look how straight he is. It's going to have to be a red to the right middle. He didn't really have much else he could do there.
35.
Well, he really needs this to go in. Be a disappointing end to the break if it didn't. Good shot. Good recovery.
36.
Another full house at the Crucible. Nothing new there.
$41.
Well, it's always the way, isn't it?
42.
Something gets in the line of the colour you're looking for. I mean, it looks absolutely plain sailing. Here he's on the black, isn't he? But the red's not finished rolling. Now, based on a few long pots,
Blue ball.
this blue is it as easy as it might be. It's a real queuing shot. John's missed a few at range. Very good. Very good. That would have hurt him had that been where the break ended. For a couple of times I've said that in this break.
47.
It continues.
Yeah, that blue worth a lot more than the 5 points it's gained him.
48.
That, though, was a poor one.
Well, you're right. I mean, the shot before,
John
he'd be
Higgins,
absolutely
48.
enraged that he hasn't won the frame there. It was the shot before. I mean, he had an area that he had to land the cue ball in. Maybe he's worried about overhitting and not being on the black. But to make 48 there was just half the job being done. And you leave your opponent in, you might not even be favourite for the frame in a few shots, Higgins.
One.
Consummate match player that he is, Mark Allen here identifies a golden chance to inflict a real psychological blow.
Six. 7.
Obviously, the red is going to be awkward along the cushion, but that's a few shots down the line at this stage. You'd like to think that he'll get that far. This would hurt Higgins if this frame went against him. He set a very high standard for himself, a high
13.
benchmark for many years. And when he just plays below it, these days he gets quite down on himself. It's a bit of a patchy performance this afternoon thus far. But if he could get it to 3-all, Higgins won't mind. He's in some doubt now.
$20. $21.
Correct side of the blue, which was clearly vital.
$26. $27. $34. $35.
There's a powerful argument to say this is the most important visit of the match so far.
Yeah, what a strange decision. What a strange decision. If you're going to play the move the red, you've got to make it work, because he could have easily played behind that. They've been going along the cushion. He could have got anywhere with his cue ball. The only way that can be the right
42.
shot is if you get it, because they are very acceptable down the cushions. So the frame is very much alive again due to that decision he made. It's not a good shot either.
Mark Allen, 42.
Frame's wide open. Well, he's put everything safe, basically. There's just low-value colours. Green and brown have gone safe. It doesn't look that comfortable, does he, John? Both players will have their issues with this frame, given that one of them is sure to lose it.
That's better. Cue ball stopping just in time to be on the right side of the blue. But he arrives on the colours only 12 ahead. And that means he needs the awkward green and the even more awkward brown.
True, but you can envisage him being on that brown to double it into the left middle, can't you? That's a shot that's because he's made his own, really. Obviously, he's got to get to the green first, but he mightn't be thinking green to brown, because when you're as good a doubler as John, that's the way he'll probably go.
Eight.
I would be amazed if he did anything but leave himself the double on this shot.
Very swiftly, let me tell you, Jack Jones now 11-9 up on Sijawi. They have gone to their interval. First 4 frames today took 2.5 hours.
To double the brown, you've still got to put the green. And this is a rare close frame. We did have one earlier on, but in these long matches, most frames are one-sided. When you get a close one, it kind of hurts to lose it and gives you the real boost when you do get the verdict.
The only close frame so far, as Neal referenced. Higgins won it last red to pink clearance. Second frame it was. To draw level, that's what he's trying to do here. Get back onto level terms and then try and crank up the standard a little.
Three.
Took a long time on the green, but the shot on the brown is very well played. And he's, yes, 11 behind. I don't think that counts for a great deal where the balls are, given that John's in a snooker, which he could go around the back of.
When he made contact, no one was sure what would happen. In the end, it's not a bad outcome. Well, against the grain, against his normal approach, that was a very attacking shot, and it's backfired.
Four.
Just the blue for 3-3.
Yeah, a bit like the earlier frame when he presented that chance to John with that double kiss. It's almost inevitable now that John is going to win it. He's got to knock this in, as Phil said. And I think Mark Allen has been the slightly better player, but he's got nothing to show for it, Phil.
Indeed, he concedes, and so John Higgins is back. It's all square at 3-3. Two more frames left of this afternoon. Who's going to go to bed tonight feeling the happier of the two? This match over 3 sessions and 3 days. They come back tomorrow afternoon, play to a finish on Monday night. It's a recurring theme when he's taking on those reds from distance into that pocket. They're all being overcut.
Yeah, I think we expected that, didn't we? That he would miss it that way, because he's missed them all that way, and he knows it too, you know. I mean, no one would know that better than him. Trust me, as a player, it wouldn't have slipped his mind that he's missed all those shots in the same way. But he created an absolutely wonderful chance that Mark Allen didn't really do anything to earn, but he'd happily try and take.
Eight. Nine.
It's pretty well played. Just moving reds out on the right side, and plenty of them now. Quite a neat little shot, this.
$17. $22. $23.
The average shot time of Mark Allen has definitely dropped since the interval. 26 seconds per shot over the session as a whole. And I think that's striking the right balance for him. You never want to be too hasty, but sometimes you can be a little too pedestrian for your own good. And I think since the interval, okay, he lost the 6th frame, but I think he's looked more at home, looked more like his normal self. One of the most delicate operations a referee is required to do, putting the pink nearest its own spot when the pink spot in all others are occupied. You're probably aware of the story now, but Paul Collier will be refereeing the final. As I mentioned earlier, it will be his final match
29.
As a professional referee. He's going to continue in snooker, but he's going to be on the administration side.
Back on me, but I do think I'll have another go. Take it away and try once more.
Now, Mark Allen's saying to John Higgins, he thinks the pink goes, but he keeps rocking back, and that happens sometimes, Neil.
Yeah, well, it appears that way. The point he's making is he thinks it goes, you see, that's the point.
29.
So, because once you've played another shot, you can't have it replaced then. You know, wherever it is, right or wrong, is condoned.
30. $35.
And the pink might be of use next time. I.e. now.
36.
The cue ball finish telling the cushion is not great, but he's got a red to middle.
42.
It's probably the one he'll take, I would think. Yeah.
$43. $45. $46. $49. $50.
Well, the black is a bit straight, and that's the reason he's shaking his head. He might be able to just swing it round off two cushions, but there's not much angle to play with, as you can see. It's a pretty good shot, actually, given that he's quite straight on the red.
57. $58.
This could well be the quickest frame of the session.
64.
Well, that's the frame one, but I think Higgins will still be interested to come back if this pink is missed, and it's by no means guaranteed.
Mark Allen, 65.
Higgins, 65 behind, 59 on. That means two snookers are required. But, of course, when there's reds on the table, there's always the chance of gaining those very useful extra points from a free ball. Oh, that was poor, though, John. That was poor. Doesn't seem to be concentrating well to me at all.
No, I think he's in a battle with himself right now. He doesn't seem very pleased or optimistic about his game. But, you know, ultimately he could still come out of this session level. I think this frame is gone. But his overall game looks a little bit below par, really. And of course, he's got the issue of going out the 16 should he lose. All the results went against him after he beat Jamie Jones. Everyone said, well, that should keep him in, but other results did not go as expected.
In the match on the other table, Sijal Wee and Jack Jones, 2 frames have been won over there when snookers have been required. They have just returned, by the way, from their mid-session interval. Jones leading 11-9, 2 more needed. There won't be anything extravagant from Mark Allen. He knows if he leaves Higgins a chance and he pots 3 reds, 3 high-value colours, the opportunity for a snooker is right there. The red closest to the blue, an obvious candidate. That's why he's being careful.
Frame conceded.
Again, not threatening the pocket with that one, and when it was left, John Higgins decides enough is enough. And so Mark Allen goes ahead once more, this time at 4-3.
The final frame of this session, John Higgins to break.
A 5-3 advantage for Allen, of course, would be light years away from decisive. But it would be worrying, especially considering the way that John Higgins has missed so many balls, especially from mid and long distance.
Yes, and the one thing, I can actually speak from experience on this, if you start missing long pots, you almost don't want to be left them. And I'm not sure John's quite at that position yet, but he's not looking dangerous at long range. He's not really threatened the pocket on some of those, and he'll be aware of it. And at this game, at this level, you really have to have a long game that is going to get you chances, because you're not going to get in otherwise very often. Anyway, this frame will make a lot of difference, I feel, if you can just pull something out of the wreckage in a way and get the scores level.
two tied frames this afternoon, both won by Higgins. One on the pink, one on the blue. And you can see there, we've had 5 frames in which the defeated player hasn't bothered the scorers.
I suppose it was worth a try to that right middle. Well, it looks like he's attempting to block off the left side of the table here. Let's put a little bit of pressure on Mark Allen. Has he got a pot to go at, or is he going to have to find a safety shot to weave the cue ball out of there? That's really well cued. You have to kind of compromise getting on a colour very easily, but the red's gone in. It's the main thing.
Stretching. And potting.
6. Seven.
He's just about okay. Certainly it's the red to middle, if nothing else.
For many years, John Higgins has been one of the alpha players on the snooker tour. He hates losing. And he won't go down without a fight. If he comes out of this today at 4-4,
15.
he will be delighted, because there's no doubt Alan's been the better player. But of course, if it's 4-4, Alan will have nothing to show for it.
$16.
This is the 1,924th frame that John Higgins has played at the Crucible. And what an important one it is for morale. Normally flicking off the edge like that is a bad thing, but
21.
There's a red to save the day.
Yeah, and he was aware of that, and you're right, it was absolutely no problem in the end. Just pushed a couple of reds out as well. Obviously the black not being on is potentially a hindrance, but not necessarily.
22. $27.
Wow, that stayed at the top jaw. I thought it was
John
just going
Higgins,
to
27.
ever so slightly drop down, but they don't, and it stayed there and it teetered on the edge.
If anything, I think it fractionally went the other way. Hard to tell from that angle, but that was the impression I got. %81% pot success rate for John Higgins. That will not cut the mustard. separation on the other table. Jack Jones now 1 frame away from progress. He leads Si Jiahui 12-9.
It was met with a lot of appreciation, that shot. It was a tiny little swerve. He didn't actually go to get the rest out and play the difficult red, and then had a rethink. Big shot, this. Well, that appreciation
Mark Allen 1
from the previous shot was not the same this time. It was, I mean, I fancied him for it, but he's got to screw back clearly to get onto a red. John's got another chance very soon after the previous. Sometimes you just got to get out of a session, haven't you? And I think that's how John would view this. If he could get to 4-all, he just got out of a session and will dust himself down, put in a bit of practice, maybe try and find his long game, which has been absent. Mostly completely absent. But of course he isn't there yet. This frame's not won by any means, but he is in a strong position. He probably feels it could end up 4-all sitting there.
7. Eight. $14.
It's the old warrior
15.
trying to ward off the undefeated old father time.
$21. $22.
Well, he's not far away now, and everything is in the middle of the table that he needs there.
$29.
He's stretching. So there's a degree of difficulty about this shot. Not bad. The angle on the black is not ideal, but he is closing in on another frame. He will only need this black, so clearly another red after it would be very handy. But I don't think he'd be trying to play anything flash here. So, the applause is for the likelihood of this session ending 4-4, barring a snooker.
Doesn't want to leave this red.
John Higgins, 37.
And that's precisely what he's done. 3 reds, 3 blacks for Mark Allen. Then the snooker. Not over yet, this frame.
One.
Recently did a podcast with the WPBSA alongside Nigel Bond, who beat John Higgins in the final of the British Open back in the 90s. Higgins was 69 ahead with 67 on in the deciding frame after potting a black, much like the one we've just seen. Bond got the snooker he needed.
9.
And eventually won the final on the black in very dramatic circumstances. Now, the difference
16.
being, in this frame, Higgins did the right thing to just pot the black without any extravagant position. In the British Open final, he might well have played position and he didn't. Either way,
17.
all those years ago, he lost that frame and he could still lose this one. .39 behind, 35 on, 1 4-point penalty snooker. Red, black and all the colours to force a respotted black. Not beyond the realms of possibility.
Mark Allen, 24.
Higgins has got cause for concern here, especially with the yellow and the blue in such close proximity. The balls are nice for snookers.
Yeah, best way to stop that is just to pot this ball, isn't it, here, and be done with it, I suppose. Not that it was easy.
Shouldn't be a problem to make contact with. But of course, Allen could well retain the tactical advantage.
Oh, he's making a lot of this. He took a long time to pop 3 reds and colours. And he's spending a lot of time on these shots. And quite frankly, it wasn't worth the wait. Nowhere near getting a snooker there.
Higgins just familiarising himself with the potting angle. And that is that. 4 snookers now needed by Mark Allen on the colours.
Bramble. John Higgins, 1 and the frame.
It's the end of the session, in which honours in the end were even. I thought Allen was marginally the better player, but overnight they are inseparable. They resume tomorrow afternoon. All square. Mark Allen 4, John Higgins 4.
Quietly, please. There's still a match on.
It was a good session. Lots of snooker left in that match.